Senator Cory Gardner of the great state of Colorado. Good morning, Senator. Always a pleasure to have you.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
You are a member of the Committee on Foreign Relations, including the subcommittees on East Asia, the subcommittee on Near East, South Asia, Central Asia, counterterrorism. You will know what's going on with the coronavirus. I've been reading the headlines today from the South China Morning Post. I've been reading the headlines from the Telegraph. I've been reading the headline in the Washington Post. It appears as though China does not really have this under control. What's your assessment, Senator Gardner?
Well, of course, that's a challenge with a communist country that blocks information and basic transparency. We don't have a good look into China. We met with the CDC yesterday with WHO. They still haven't had what they would like in terms of personnel into China. That is a major concern. They have changed the way they're calculating who is testing positive with an additional test, and that added about 15,000 people to the rolls of those who have coronavirus. This, at least what we know right now, whereas the flu is like 1.5, 1.6 in terms of for every case of the flu, you get 1.5 or 1.6 new cases of the flu. Right now, we're looking at the coronavirus at 2 or 3 new cases for every 1 case of coronavirus. That's explosive, and that's why this is such a concern.
The R-ought number is what you just referred to, and I've seen it, 2.6. The mortality also matters. The mortality of the flu in the United States is about 0.07%. I've seen estimates, and perhaps you got a briefing yesterday or the day before, I've seen estimates that coronavirus out of Wuhan is over 1%. What do you know, Senator?
Well, that sounds about right. We know that this is above SARS in terms of lethality. It's below MERS, the Mideast Respiratory Syndrome. The experts continue to tell us we don't have a good sample set because it's brand new and there's 60,000 people we're dealing with, and we only have weeks of data, not decades of data. But the fact is, this is highly contagious, dealing with a communist country that is blocking basic information and transparency. And we now have the highest cases outside of China in Hong Kong and Singapore, where there are still flights. There is still activity between the United States, those countries, and what it means continues to be a little bit of an unknown.
I have been urging everyone to read the book, The Great Influenza by John Barry. There are segments in there about Colorado. The University of Colorado was devastated by the influenza pandemic of 1918, as were many of the cities in the Centennial State. Do you think the United States government is doing everything it can and should be doing?
Well, I think the United States government has taken steps that have never been taken before. In fact, we had the first quarantine since basically small populations of smallpox in the 1960s. So that is an unprecedented step that has been taken. I think the grounding of flights was unprecedented, and that those measures must continue to protect the American people from harm. As additional measures need to be taken, the administration must not hesitate to put the safety of our people first. And that's why I encourage them to continue to monitor this closer than they've ever done before any other like situation.
Now, Senator Gardner, you're considered one of the center-right people who can work across the aisle. You've got a great reputation for dealing with colleagues in both parties. I am curious from that vantage point. Even in the middle of an election year with the presidential on top and you were up for re-election, I think you're going to win pretty handily, but you're up. The question is, will the Senate be able to advance bipartisan action as needed on something like coronavirus?
We have to. That's the bottom line. The American people not just expect it, they demand it, and that's what we are here to do. Politics can't risk a coronavirus outbreak and a lack of response from Congress. Now, look, while Chuck Schumer is going to try to block everything that I do, he's already blocked a bipartisan wallway resolution that I'm trying to get across the finish line. I think the members, other than Chuck Schumer, recognize the importance of good policy, not just playing politics.
We had the leader on the show this week, and he talked about leaving no vacancy behind. Are you confident that the district court vacancies in Colorado and your circuit court vacancies on the 10th Circuit will be filled by the time of the election?
I am, yes. In fact, we're working on another judge right now through the White House. I believe this nominee will have support from my colleagues on both sides of the aisle, and so I am convinced that, like that vacancy across the country, we'll be able to fill these vacancies.
So the post-impeachment atmosphere in the Senate, how do you describe it?
I think you have a significant disappointment from the Democrats who drove a very partisan impeachment process that they thought would disable the president. But in fact, I think the American people have rejected the impeachment. And now we see opportunities to go forward, additional judges being confirmed, new legislation being confirmed, hopeful tax cuts that continue to be looked at.
Now, I've been arguing that Republicans who have the right to, as I did in Virginia, ought to exercise the opportunity to participate in the Democratic primary so that we can get clarity in the nominee. I want Bernie Sanders to run against Donald Trump because I think basically all the Democrats are Bernie Sanders in just different shades of rhetoric. What do you think of Senator Sanders? Are you surprised he's won 2 in a row? Some people say Pete Buttigieg won the first one and Bernie won the second one, but a lot of people say Bernie won the raw vote total, so he's got 2 in a row. Are you surprised?
You know, for the party that hates the Electoral College, it's amazing how Bernie Sanders can lead in the popular vote, but Pete Buttigieg leads in the delegate count. So they seem to be a little bit at odds with their Electoral College stance and their delegate stance. Look, I think that the most dangerous thing coming out of the 2016 election, the most dangerous thing coming out of the 2016 election was the normalization of socialism by Bernie Sanders. I said that shortly after the election in 2016 because I said, what happens if somebody actually gets elected with these positions? Shortly after that, we saw AOC out of New York, and now we see Bernie Sanders being the clear frontrunner of the Democratic Party for the nomination. Look, when Republicans were getting third place against Donald Trump, the media never said that they had a remarkable night and they were leading the Democratic nomination. They knew the first place finisher was the first place finisher, and in this case, it is Bernie Sanders. And so you are right. I completely agree with you. There are no shades of socialism. It is socialism, and whether it's Bernie Sanders or not, they all want a Green New Deal. They all want Medicare for all, or a public option that leads to Medicare for all, that is Medicare for all. It is dangerous for this country.
You will not have an opponent for a long time, and I posted Cory Gardner for Senate so people can go there and support you, but you will have a flood of blue money. I mean, just a flood of blue money. You've been identified as a target. Does Colorado hang on to its reputation of one from one party, one from the other? You got Michael Bennet across the aisle. Michael Bennet and Cory Gardner both represent that. And Bennet, center left, you're center right. Does Colorado hang on to its tradition, or does the wave of blue money put you in peril?
Well, I think the wave of blue money is certainly a very perilous challenge for us, and that's why we're going to need help across the country and across the state of Colorado. We win Colorado, we hold the majority. It's that simple. I believe the people of Colorado value independence. They value that red and blue sort of mix that we've had. Not only am I the only Republican now from Colorado statewide, but I'm also the only Republican who lives like more than 20 miles away from everybody else. Everybody else lives in Denver or Boulder. I live out on the eastern plains of Colorado. And so I think we need that diversity. We need that difference of opinion. We need somebody who's going to stand up for freedom, liberty, and opportunity, and not just socialism, socialized medicine, and big government.
Cory Gardner, good to talk to you as always, Senator. Keep the watch on coronavirus. I look forward to checking in with you. I know you got the right committee on that, and I appreciate your taking time with me this morning.
Hey, thanks you very much. Thanks.